Well, I don't think people understand how difficult it is to do what you guys did today. The number 6 team in the country comes in here and they are throwing every haymaker they have at you, but you still come out of here with the win. Bryce, maybe we start with you. How'd you do it?
We never quit. I say we a deep team, so whoever come off the bench is just as good as the starters. And coaches preach to us, never give up, never give up. In these last few games, we don't even gave the games up. So today we were just tired of it, really.
So a pretty clear message of persistence there. Cade, what was the most important thing today?
I think we did a really good job on the guard play. I think we kind of kept their guards out of rhythm. And kind of made them, we played a lot of small ball. McCormick had a really good night, but that's a lot of tools. So I think we did a really good job on the guards and we came over there.
Obviously a season is a long season. Everybody is tough. There's no gimme wins in the Big 12, but you now have wins over Texas Tech and Kansas. What does it say about the ceiling for this team, about how high this team could go? Bryce, maybe we start with you.
I just feel like we're still a young team, but we got to mature at some point, I just feel like we got a lot of dogs. Nobody wants to lose. We need to go take the win. Nobody's gonna give it to us. So I just feel like if we can get this home court advantage under control, we can go wherever we want to go.
Cade, is this why you go to college? Is it games like this? Is it moments like this?
Definitely. I think that's a even bigger reason why we came to the Big 12. Because the Big 12 is full of top teams that are gonna make you work for every win. There's hardly any games in the Big 12 that aren't decided by 1 or 2 possessions. So, we knew that coming in. We knew that we were going to make our runs. We knew that they were going to make theirs. And we took their hits and kept playing.
All right, members of the media, if you have questions for Oklahoma State's Bryce Williams and Cade Cunningham, please click raise hand and we'll try and get to everybody. We just ask that you please address the question to whoever you want to answer. Our first question is to come from Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, Cade and Bryce, this is really for both of you. Can each of you walk us through that go-ahead play, the block by Cade and the save to Bryce, the rondelle? Can you each walk kind of through what you saw in that play?
Just great anticipation by all of us. Cade really could have let the ball go out of bounds. We could have been playing another inbound play, but he knew where we were. He looked before he even got it out of his hand. Just a hustle play all around, really.
Yeah, I don't know who was on the ball, but whoever it was, did a good job keeping who was it? Oh,
it was Avery.
Garrett shot the layup. He did a good job keeping Garrett in front of him and, allowed me to be backside. And I got a good block. Before I threw it out, made sure I knew who was wearing the court. One kid got the catch, and he had his head up too. And made a good leading pass to Rondell, and he made a tough finish. So, yeah, I think everybody was just looking for each other. We all wanted to win, so we relied on each other.
How much were these? And either one of you can answer this. How much were the 2 losses to TCU and West Virginia hanging over you guys the last few weeks, knowing you guys were so close to those?
Both those games were 1-possession games that, we were up at half and playing really well, but I think we just got too comfortable, towards the end. So, I think the difference with this game is, we had, already took those 2 L's and learned from them, had tough practices after them. And, we came in and told ourselves we were going to play for 40 minutes. We did
that. Cade, you scored 14 points in that first half. Saturday, you only shot the ball 3 times. Was this more of a conscious effort to go out and kind of attack more?
I knew I had to attack. Kansas State, I wasn't, feeling my best, but, this game, I knew my team was going to allow me to, be aggressive and things like that, and that's what I did.
Yeah, scoring is not his only suit.
Oh yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
That's the least of our concern. He's going to make the play that he's going to go for it.
Awesome. Appreciate it, fellas.
Everybody needs to get them a teammate like Bryce Williams right there.
Good thought. Yeah, he's definitely.
I hear you. All right. Our next question is going to come from Frank Bonner of the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Bryce, this is the second time you've been able to get your hands on a steal in a late situation. You did the same thing against Texas Tech. What is it about those situations that, allow you to find yourself in the right place?
I just try to anticipate, and I just try to find who's hot on their team. I just try to look at the little things. We played the 3-point line. Coach said if they're in the paint, don't guard it. So I stayed on the 3-point line, and the only person that was on the 3-point line was Brian. So we had to throw the ball to him. So I just try to make a play without fouling or anything like that.
And then at what point on that last play did you decide you were going to do that bounce out of the hoop to yourself?
Miles Garrett lifted the ball, really. That's really it. What you talking about?
I'm talking about
What you
the
talking
dunk.
about? The mill?
Yeah.
The last
dunk when you got the steal.
What was your question?
I said,
when I got past half court.
And this one is for you, Cade, or I guess for both of you guys. When Kansas took that lead after you guys, had that 16-point lead, what was the conversation? Like what was the team conversation in that moment where KU took that lead?
We just kept saying we had been there before. We knew that, that giving credit to Kansas, they're one of the top teams in the country for a reason. We knew that they were going to make their runs. We knew that they were going to make shots and get stops and things like that. So, you can't hang your head whenever they do that. That's what they're supposed to do. They're human too. They're not going to, lay down for anybody. So, staying poised throughout those situations and staying together. I think that's the best thing to do. Not pointing any fingers at your teammate and, stay together.
I appreciate you.
Our next question is going to come from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, this first one's for either of you. Kind of builds off of what Frank just asked, but those last few possessions, you guys were diving all over the floor. What were kind of the conversations like in the huddles? Was that something that like a conscious effort, like, hey, we got to get on the ground. We really need this because this can't happen again.
We got a stat called 50-50 ball, and we want to win every 50-50 ball. We want to be the first on the ground. If they're the first on the ground, coach is gonna pull you out. It's like we just try to show that we're tougher. We're the dogs. We need this. We want this. We got to take this. That's what we did.
And then, Cade, for you, obviously a big point in that game was Isaac's 3-pointer there in the corner. His shooting has been questioned his first few years here. Just what does it mean that he was A, confident enough to take that shot, and then B, that he hit it?
Yeah, I mean, Ice makes big time shots. He's a big time player. And I think the only thing with his shot has just been his confidence. I think, when he's confident, he's shooting. You can ask guys in practice, he's gonna knock it down. So, you can tell it almost felt like he kind of rolled it in his hand before he shot it, like he knew he was gonna shoot it. So, seeing him being confident, and this year he's made, strides in his jump shot. He's been letting them fly, with confidence, and they've been going down. So, I really can't get my words, but I'm kind of lit. We just won for real. So.
All right, and then the last thing for you then, Cade. I don't know if we'll get to talk to you now before Saturday, but obviously Bedlam game, your first Bedlam game, probably one of only 2 that you'll play in. What do you know about the rivalry? What do you anticipate? Has anybody kind of briefed you on that yet?
Yeah, I know it's personal for not only the team, but for the city of Stillwater County. Nobody wants to lose to Oklahoma. And so we're gonna prepare for that game. We're gonna get our minds right for it, and we're gonna try to go put on for the city.
Thanks, guys.
Our next question is going to come from Chris Becker from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, my question for Cade. Cade, there at the end of the first half, kind of, Avery had those 2 big defensive possessions where he drew that 5-second call and then almost drew another one. Kind of, what was your going through your mind when you saw him do that, and kind of how'd that line up spark in your team?
He does that every day. He makes everybody work. You'll see him picking guys up 94 feet in practice every day. He don't really take any days off. And I think having guys like Avery who, so big on outworking everybody, just being that spark for the team. He knew that's what we needed to see. And we wanted to see a spark on the defensive end. He gave that to us.
Thanks, guys.
Our next question is going to come from Jacob Unruh of the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Bryce, I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how much, you being a veteran and you've seen teams, how much has this team kind of grown up the last few weeks in Big 12 play?
I think we've grown up tremendously in practice and on the court. Like I said, we're a young team. All the losses we had, I think it's at the end of the game, like literally the end of the game where the other team makes a run and we just give in kind of. Today, we just said we're going to stop it. And even if we're young, we're going to mature out today and mature out the rest of the season.
How proud does that make you to see these guys come along like they have?
Very proud. I see it every day in practice. Like, we're getting better every day, literally. If we're not pushing ourselves to get better, Coach Mike going to make sure we're pushing ourselves to get better.
And what do you think of the defense tonight?
I think we took ourselves out some plays, but when we needed to stop, we got to stop. When we needed to dive on the ground, we dive on the ground. And the ending showed for itself.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, that'll do it for questions. Cade, I'm going to have you take us home. Your message to Oklahoma State fans tonight.
This is a big time win for us. Something that, we're definitely going to take that confidence and put it in through the rest of the conference play. But I'm not trying to, get overly excited on this win just because, this is something that, we keep saying new era. This is something that, we're trying to plan on doing in the future more consistently and have this be, who we are. This is our new identity. So we let a couple slip early on in the season in conference play, but this is what our identity is trying to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on the win. Your prize, you get another heavyweight fight later in the week.
That's what's up. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Coach, we started off with the guys by just saying, how difficult it is when you got the number 6 team in the country in here throwing haymakers, everything they've got, and you still hold it off, find a way to win. How did it happen?
Kids just stepped up and made plays. The players got to go get the job done, and they did. Proud of our staff. I thought we had a really good game plan. Played well. We built a big lead again. We're continuing to show what we are capable of. But sometimes when you use a word too often or a phrase, it becomes a cliche and not many people buy into it. But this is what the process looks like. It doesn't always happen immediately. And it's not easy. It's not fun. I want to win them all. I get it. I understand the frustration when we fall short, losing a 19-point lead. I get all that. But I also understand that what I see is our team getting better. And so I'm proud of the effort we showed. I'm proud that we sat down tonight, got meaningful stops. We rebounded the ball at a high level. And we pretty much executed the game plan for about 35 to 36 minutes a game.
What do you think was the most important thing today?
That we won. I think that's really important. And it sounds really, really simple, but when you haven't won these games, it can start to be psychological. And you start to wonder, are we done? Is this going to be another one of those deals? And I'm sure you can kind of feel it in a way, to be honest. Is this going to happen again? And when we lost the lead and called the timeout, I told the guys, no, this isn't happening. We're the better team. We've been the better team all night. And we're going to win the game because we're going to go make the plays now. And then the kids went out there and did it. Cade, kind of a small thing, but it was huge. Cade's defensive help, block shot, save, and pitch ahead for a layup. Odell had 10 rebounds. Bryce's 2 steals, Ice's 3. I mean, everybody contributed to what was obviously a tremendous move for us.
All right, members of the media, if you have a question for Oklahoma State head coach Mike Boynton, please click raise hand and we'll try and get to everybody. Our first question is going to come from Jacob Unruh of the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Mike, you kind of touched on it. I wanted to ask what you kind of saw on that play with Cade and Bryce and Rondell to take the lead.
Well, I saw Cade's matchup, and I thought that at the time he could be more of a helper. And so I told him to kind of hang in the paint. I knew they were going to try to drive. They started getting downhill on us and making plays at the rim. And they ran a really good action. And they got an angle on Avery, but Cade came over. He went straight up in the air. Your size helps, right? That's your point guard down there being a rim protector. It makes the block. And obviously, I couldn't see the rest of the play, but I know he came up with it. And Rondell, looked like Texas Titans at that point. Chris and head, and Rondell finishes. And, they really kind of settled us for the moment.
You talked about the importance of winning this game because of the psychological impact. How much has this team grown up the last few weeks, considering everything you've been through with the leads being lost?
Well, we've really grown up a lot since we left Austin. That was a critical moment for us. Texas is really good. Obviously, everybody knows that now. But we also play with them for most of the game. Not for a 17-0 run, who knows, right? Can't speculate getting back. But since that game, I think we have an identity. We know who we are and how we need to have success. Well, that's when we get out and running, and it's hard to stop, right? If we're getting stops and getting out in transition, that's where the most growth has been, is our consistency of getting out and putting real pressure in transition on the opposing.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike, this is the second game where Bryce has basically had a walk-off steal for you guys. Just how big is it for him to make those defensive plays for you guys down the stretch, knowing you have a player that can get a knack for getting a steal late like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can quantify his value to our team. And again, I talked about it all summer heading in, too often now, but partly because I knew who the kid was, and not many people did. And then if you look, when we signed him, he didn't do anything at all. So yeah, all right, why would this kid help? I watched him as a junior college player. Knew enough about him to know what he could bring to our program. And he does things that no one else on our team can do. And he's made that play. I think he plays safety. I think he's a football player, young, and obviously that shows his anticipation skills. And when he's got quick twitch, I used to be able to see that play, and I couldn't make it. He's athletically, I couldn't get there, and I certainly couldn't finish the way he does. So he's been really good defensively for us, and obviously he brings another element backcourt of a dynamic play.
And I wanted to ask you about Avery. I know last year you talked about how you were pretty hard on your guards, particularly your point guards, and there were some things Avery struggled with last year, but he's played really well for you guys lately. Just how big is, what have you seen in his growth from last year to be able to do what he did in big game like today?
Go back to it. I keep saying it as much as people probably don't like to hear. It's the process. It's, he's really talented. I think everybody can see that. There are things he still needs to learn about college basketball. And then he's got to trust the work that he puts in and still kind of second guessing himself. But obviously he's a tremendous finisher. He's really, really quick. He can sit down and guard with the best guards in the country. And tonight he made an impact on both ends of the court. So watching his maturation gives me a lot of hope that, not only for this year, right? We expect Avery to be back here for a while. And if he continues to get better, then he's going to help us win a lot of games in this program.
Thank you, Mike.
Our next question is going to come from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Mike, with you guys down 3, they kind of dared Isaac to shoot that 3. What does it say about his process, his maturation, and like his confidence that he's able to hit that?
Yeah, that's part of it, right? We kind of, I'm not gonna say we skipped a step, but we talked about it before. We should have been able to do this, or would have been able to do this for him last year, if not for USA basketball. And so his confidence just comes from having the opportunity to really work on it this summer. And what they did was, Cade had it going pretty good there. They just decided they weren't going to guard those other guys. and they stuck through. I think they played a triangle too. I'll go back and watch the film, but I'm pretty certain there was a triangle too on Bryce and Cade, and they were going to dare Avery and Rondell and Nice to beat them. And all those guys ended up making really, really big plays for us. But his confidence comes from just spending time in the gym, our GAs, early mornings, late nights, our coaches during practice, watching film. He's got to be able to step up and shoot that ball with confidence, and I'm glad he did.
You mentioned to Jacob that you guys are at your best, obviously, when you're getting out and running. Whenever you had the lead, you guys maybe slowed down a little bit, and then they were able to set into that zone. Just kind of what are the delicacies of defending a lead like that when you are at your best when you're running, and kind of what does that dynamic kind of look like?
Well, again, and that's hard. That's one of those questions that are hard for me to answer right after the game. The one thing I feel right now is our defense wasn't as good, and so we weren't getting stops. And then it's easier for them to get back and set their defense, and we're not as aggressive because guys are looking around trying to figure out where the breakdown was. And so I've got to figure out where the defensive breakdowns are happening, because when we get stops, man, we're pretty dynamic. We got a lot of guys that can get that ball ahead of the floor in a hurry. Avery has some tremendous finishes. Bryce, obviously, Ice, Cade. I mean, those guys are all really good in open court. So I think it starts defensively, Marshall, but I'll have to look at that, and I'll probably get back to you on that.
I appreciate it, Mike.
Our next question comes from Danielle Dwyer from Fox 25. Go ahead, Danielle.
Hey, Mike. First, congrats on the win. I wanted to ask you, you kind of mentioned how you guys have come into this identity or starting to figure out what your identity is now. With such a young team, and especially, your freshman guys, some of them had it, I don't want to say easy in high school, but the possessions weren't as emphasized at a high school level when you have that kind of talent. Do you feel that your guys are understanding or emphasizing that each possession matters, especially in the Big 12? And do you feel tonight was a good display of that progression?
There's no question. And I think it's well within reason to say it was easier, because it was for them. Most of them were the best guy. And not only were teams not able to game plan the way they do in college, the competition wasn't good enough to even execute the game plan if there was one. Right. So, Avery Anderson was the fastest, most athletic dude on the court every time he played, and it didn't matter what the defense tried to do. And Cade was the biggest, baddest, strongest dude on the court every game, no matter what the defense tried to do. But at this level, right, you look down there and Cade's got however many he does at halftime. That dude's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He's not just going to let Cade go have 40 points and beat him. So they made an adjustment, and it's our job to help our guys understand that process. Because as it relates to the possessions, we had 3 turnovers in a row at one point in the game because we didn't execute. We didn't have 5 guys on the same page. So that's the next step that we have to continue to get better at. And it's on our staff to get these kids to understand it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Mike, you kind of just touched on it with the defense they threw at Cade. What did you think of the way he adjusted tonight? They were doubling him all over the place. They were doing all kinds of things throughout the game, kind of throwing the kitchen sink at him, I think. So what did you think of the way he handled that? I
thought it was terrific. Cade's not the guy. He's not the type of guy that's gonna take a bunch of bad shots over good defense. If it's one guy, sure. But the thing about him that makes him special is that he believes in his teammates. He's not the guy that feels like it doesn't matter. I've got to go shoot the ball 25 times. And he's going to give them confidence. And he's going to pass the ball to Rondell when it's open. He's going to pass the ball to Avery when it's open. And he tells those guys, you guys have to shoot these shots. That's going to help you. It's going to help him personally. And because of that, it'll help our team have success. So I want him to keep playing the game the right way. He's always done that. I got no question about that. We just have to have those other guys understand that in some ways it's kind of disrespectful for teams to say, this is really the only guy that's good enough to beat us. And, if they take it that way, then they'll be more aggressive looking for opportunities to exploit that type of scheme.
On a different topic, how far has this defense come? Because I know at the beginning of the season, you were worried about the defense, and now it's a huge part of your identity. So how far has this defense come?
Yeah, the reason I was worried about it, I have time to get it in. I mean, we didn't have the same summer and because we have so much talent offensively, it's easier to start there. But once you get in a conference play, it's going to come down to possession games. And tonight we had to get some key stops late. Cade's block and steal and Bryce's 2 steals that led to dunks were huge plays. And so I'm excited that our guys are starting to understand that. As coaches, we know it, but it just takes a little bit longer with some groups, and this is one of the groups that it took a little bit longer.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question is going to come from Matt Hubbard of Go Pokes. Go ahead, Matt.
After so many close losses this season, what did you tell your team after going out and finishing a close game to pick up the win?
I told them first they should be proud. I told them second that this was a big game and a big win, not just because it was Kansas. It was a big win because we won it. It was a big win because we made plays in a late close game where we had a big lead and lost it to find a way to get the job done. And so now can we build off of that momentum? Can we not have the deer in the headlights look when the team makes 2 threes in a row when we're up 12 and they cut it to 6? Do we know now that we got to run good offense? Do we know now that we got to really buckle down? We got to come up with loose balls. We have to make sure we block out a rebound. We got to communicate defensively. And that's the next step, is just doing it consistently, because close games aren't going to end. We're still playing the Big 12 most of the rest of our games. So these situations will continue to come up, and usually the team that executes the best down the stretch is the team that wins.
All right, and our final question is going to come from Marshall Scott of Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, this is real quick, but with it being a 1-possession game, did your heart drop to your stomach a little bit when you saw Bryce pull off a self-oop there at the end?
Some of this stuff, I just because of the pandemic, I try not to be as anal about. I want them to enjoy this. This is really hard what they're doing. I wish he would have just gone and laid it up, right? Or just dribbled the clock out, either one. I didn't want him to get hurt. I mean, that's my concern. I don't want him to get hurt. And so, yeah, it is what it is at this point. I'm happy that we got to play. We played a great game with kids won, and now we get ready for it. It's going to be the biggest game of the year. I very rarely talk about the next game this quickly afterwards, but it's really important that I let our guys know this game means a little bit more. And these two with them are they have a little bit more value to our fans, to me, to our administration. So we'll be off tomorrow, but on Thursday we have to have the page turned to get ready for a really good team. And I usually don't know how the other team has done the night before at this time, but I already know that they kicked TCU butt tonight, and so they'll be coming here a lot of time.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Coach, I'm sorry I lied. There's one more question, and it's from me. You just referenced the fans. After the game, you were pretty demonstrative in kind of sharing it with the student section and the fans. Just what's your message to the fans tonight?
I miss them. I miss our students. They've been such a supportive base for me personally. And I'm so thankful for them. I'm a little disturbed that I saw 3 or 4 KU jerseys in our student section. I don't want any violence. I don't want anybody to go do anything, but I'd rather not see that. But I'm really, really thankful that our fans got to enjoy this team tonight, win a game, because they deserve it. They've been here supporting us for a long time. A lot of them are making sacrifices to continue to come out. And I can't say thank you enough for that energy that they brought in the pandemic. It was as good as we could ask for in terms of what our crowd did for us tonight, and I'm very thankful.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Members of the media, thank you as well. We appreciate you as always.